The day I decided that I would no longer be the outsider in my own family, my father looked at me and scoffed. "Eleanor," he said coldly, "if you wish to leave this family, you must return everything we've given you and leave with nothing." He crossed his arms, confident that I would never agree to such a condition. However, in the next moment, I replied, "Of course I can do that. I'll sign whatever you want immediately." His composure broke, and the expensive whiskey glass he was holding slipped from his fingers, shattering across the marble floor. "Are you certain you can accept never seeing your mother or brother again?" he asked, his voice strained. I repeated my agreement. "Of course I can accept that." "What is there to not accept?" My tone was steady and detached. "Daughter," I continued, "isn't your precious son about to become the heir to everything? Besides, our arrangement as family is clearly over. I have no desire to keep what isn't rightfully mine. All I want now is to stand on my own and build my own life." My father was silent for a long time before finally letting out a long sigh. "Since you insist on leaving, I won't stop you. The paperwork removing you from the family trust will take a week. As for your mother and brother, you can discuss it with them yourself." "Thank you, Father," I replied. After leaving the grand house, I quietly looked up at the sky. 20 years I had spent trying to earn my place in a family that never wanted me. 20 years of being the outsider, the afterthought, the disappointment. But now, in just 7 days, I would finally be free. This is how I chose to disappear from a family that had already erased me long ago. I was born into the prestigious Prescott family, heirs to a real estate empire spanning 3 generations. My father, Richard Prescott, was a titan of industry whose cold, calculating demeanour had helped him double the family fortune. My mother, Caroline, was from old money herself, more concerned with social appearances than raising children. And then there was my brother, Michael, 3 years older, infinitely more favoured, and groomed from birth to inherit everything. From my earliest memories, I knew something was wrong. While Michael had a room filled with toys and received constant praise, I was an afterthought. When I achieved perfect grades, my father would merely nod. When I won debate competitions, my mother would ask why I couldn't be more like Michael, who had won national championships. No matter what I accomplished, it was never enough. I still remember my 12th birthday. My parents had promised a celebration, something small but meaningful. I'd invited 3 friends from school, the only ones who would associate with the weird Prescott girl. I had spent weeks planning games and picking out snacks they would like. The day came and my friends arrived at our mansion's gates, only to be turned away by security. Inside, I found out my parents had forgotten entirely. They had scheduled an important business dinner that evening. Michael sat at the table in a designer suit while I was told to stay in my room so as not to disturb the guests. I watched from my window as my brother charmed everyone at that table. I saw how my father beamed with pride when he spoke intelligently about business matters at just 17. I heard my mother introducing him as our brilliant son to important connections. I was invisible. As I grew older, the divide only widened. Michael graduated with honours and immediately took an executive position in our family company. I chose to study architecture, hoping to contribute to the real estate business in my own way. My father called it playing with building blocks and refused to fund my education. I took out loans and worked part-time jobs to put myself through school. By 25, I had graduated with honours myself, but no one from my family attended the ceremony. That night, I had arranged a small dinner celebration at an upscale restaurant, inviting my parents and brother. I waited for 3 hours alone at that table, checking my phone constantly for messages that never came. The waiter's pitying looks became unbearable. The next day, I discovered they had been at Michael's engagement party, an event I hadn't even been told about, much less invited to. When I confronted my mother, she seemed genuinely confused about why I was upset. "Oh, Eleanor, it was just family and close friends," she said dismissively. The words "just family" cut deeper than any knife could have. That was the moment everything changed for me. If I wasn't family to them, then they wouldn't be family to me. I packed my essentials that night: clothes, personal documents, and the few meaningful possessions I had accumulated over the years. I emptied my modest savings account and walked out the door without leaving a note. They wouldn't notice my absence anyway, I thought bitterly, and if they did, they would probably be relieved. I moved to a small apartment in a city 4 hours away, where the Prescott name meant nothing. With my architecture degree and a desperate need to prove myself, I started from the ground up. I worked for a small firm during the day and freelanced at night, sleeping barely 4 hours and pouring every ounce of my energy into building something that was entirely mine. Within 2 years, one of my designs won a regional competition. Within 3, I had started my own modest firm. By the time 5 years had passed, my company, Horizon Designs, had become known for innovative, sustainable urban housing solutions. Success didn't come easily, but it came honestly through my own sweat and determination. During those years, I never once reached out to my family. No calls, no messages, no social media connections. I disappeared as completely as possible from their lives. I changed my phone number, created a new email address, and even considered changing my last name but decided against it. I wouldn't hide who I was. I would simply become someone new on my own terms. The irony wasn't lost on me when I began seeing my projects featured in the same business magazines that had once showcased my father's accomplishments. I wondered if they ever saw my name, and paused, even for a moment. Did they feel anything at all? Pride? Regret? Or had they truly forgotten me entirely? I built more than just a business in those years. I built a life. I made real friends, people who chose to be around me because they enjoyed my company, not because of my family name. I dated men who knew nothing about my background and liked me for who I was, not what I could offer them financially. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Then, almost 7 years to the day after I had walked out of the Prescott mansion, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer it. "Eleanor, it's your mother." Her voice sounded older, strained. I remained silent, my heart pounding in my chest. "Eleanor, please, we need you to come home. Your father is dying." And just like that, the past came rushing back like a tidal wave. My mother's voice cracked as she continued speaking. "The doctors say he has 3 months at most. He's been asking for you." 7 years of silence, and now this. I gripped the phone tightly, staring out the window of my office at the cityscape I had helped reshape. "How did you get this number?" I asked, my voice colder than I intended. "We hired someone to find you," she admitted. "Eleanor, please, whatever issues we've had in the past—" "Issues?" I interrupted, a bitter laugh escaping me. "Is that what you call it?" "He wants to make amends before he goes," she pressed on, "and there are matters that need to be addressed, family matters." Of course, even now it wasn't about me. It was about family matters, which undoubtedly meant money, the company, legalities. "I'll think about it," I said finally, and hung up. For 3 days, I went about my business as usual, trying to push the conversation from my mind. But at night, lying awake, I couldn't escape the thoughts that plagued me. Was I really so cold-hearted that I would deny a dying man's request? Or was this just another manipulation, another way for them to exert control over me? On the 4th day, I called my assistant into my office. "Cancel my meetings for the next 2 weeks," I instructed her, "and book me a flight to Boston. I'll be visiting family." The word family felt foreign on my tongue, like a language I had forgotten how to speak. The flight gave me time to prepare myself mentally. I wouldn't go in with expectations. I wouldn't open myself up to being hurt again. This was closure. Nothing more. I would hear what my father had to say, deal with whatever family matters needed addressing, and return to the life I had built for myself. As the car I'd hired approached the familiar iron gates of the Prescott estate, a knot formed in my stomach. The mansion looked exactly as I remembered it, imposing, perfect, cold. A temple to wealth rather than a home. The housekeeper who opened the door didn't recognise me. Why would she? I'd been gone for 7 years, and staff had always rotated frequently in our household anyway. "I'm Eleanor Prescott," I said simply. "I believe I'm expected." Her eyes widened slightly. "Of course, Miss Prescott. Please, come in. Your mother is in the sitting room." Walking through those marble halls felt like stepping back in time. The same artwork hung on the walls, the same antique furniture lined the corridors. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. I was different now, stronger, independent, no longer desperate for approval I would never receive. My mother rose when I entered the sitting room. She had aged more than the 7 years would account for. Her once perfect blonde hair now showed streaks of grey, and deep lines had formed around her eyes and mouth. "Eleanor," she breathed, moving toward me as if to embrace me. I stepped back slightly, maintaining my distance. Her arms fell to her sides, and she nodded in understanding. "Thank you for coming," she said instead, gesturing for me to sit. "Would you like something to drink?" "No," I replied. "I'd like to see my father now." "Of course." She seemed unsurprised by my directness. "He's in his study. The doctors have set up a hospital bed there. He refused to be confined to a bedroom." That sounded like Richard Prescott, controlling his surroundings until the very end. My mother led me to the study door, but didn't enter with me. "He's been having good days and bad days," she explained quietly. "Today is not a good day." I nodded and opened the door myself, steeling my nerves for whatever awaited me. The study had always been my father's sanctuary, a place where I had rarely been welcome as a child. Now it had been transformed. Medical equipment surrounded a hospital bed where the imposing mahogany desk had once stood, and there, amidst the machinery, lay a withered version of the Titan I had known. Richard Prescott had always been a large man, tall, broad-shouldered, with a presence that commanded attention. The figure in the bed was a shadow of that man. His skin hung loosely on his frame, his once thick hair now sparse and white. The only familiar thing was his eyes, sharp blue, calculating even now. Those eyes found mine immediately as I entered. "So you came," he said, his voice raspy but still carrying that note of authority. "I did," I replied simply, remaining by the door. "Closer," he commanded, gesturing weakly. "I won't bite, girl. Not anymore." I approached the bed slowly, taking in the details of his decline. Pancreatic cancer, my mother had told me on the phone. Aggressive. Discovered too late. The irony wasn't lost on me, my father, who had controlled everything in his life with an iron fist, being defeated by rogue cells in his own body. "You look well," he observed, studying me just as I was studying him. "Successful." "I am," I confirmed without elaboration. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Still not making it easy for me, I see." "Why should I?" He nodded slightly, as if acknowledging the fairness of my question. "You're right. I don't deserve easy." He gestured to a chair beside the bed. "Sit, please." I hesitated, then complied. We sat in silence for a moment, the beeping of machines the only sound between us. "I'm dying," he said finally, bluntly. 3 months is an optimistic estimate." "I know. Mother told me." "What she probably didn't tell you is that things are falling apart." He shifted slightly, wincing in pain. "The company, the family, everything." I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "Michael wasn't ready," he said, a note of disappointment in his voice. All those years of grooming, and when it came time to take the reins, he couldn't handle it. Made a series of catastrophic decisions. We're hemorrhaging money, losing properties left and right. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of vindication. All those years of being told I wasn't good enough, that Michael was the perfect heir, and now this. That's unfortunate, I said neutrally, but I don't see what it has to do with me. My father's eyes narrowed. Don't play dumb, Eleanor. It doesn't suit you. You've built your own empire from nothing. Your designs are revolutionizing urban housing. You've proven yourself in ways I never gave you the chance to. And now you want my help, I concluded, the pieces falling into place. Now that I've shown my worth elsewhere, now that you're desperate, suddenly I'm worthy of being a Prescott. He didn't deny it. Yes, he said simply, I want you to save this family. The audacity of it almost made me laugh. After everything, he expected me to swoop in and rescue them, to fix Michael's mistakes, to preserve the legacy that had never included me. Why would I do that? I asked. Why would I care if the Prescott Empire crumbles? Because, despite everything, it's your birthright too, he replied. And because I'm offering you what you always wanted, recognition, a place at the table, the chance to prove yourself. 7 years too late, I said coldly. I've already proven myself. I don't need your recognition anymore. He closed his eyes briefly, seeming to gather strength. When he opened them again, there was something there I had never seen before. Vulnerability. Then do it, because I'm asking you, as my daughter, because I was wrong about you, and I want to make it right before I die. I stood up abruptly, unable to sit still with the emotions churning inside me. You think it's that simple? That you can just say you were wrong, and decades of neglect and dismissal are erased? That I'll forget how you made me feel like I didn't belong in my own family? No, he said quietly. I don't think it's simple at all. I think it's probably the hardest thing I'll ever ask of you, and I have no right to ask it. But I'm asking anyway, because I have nothing left to lose. I turned away from him, walking to the window that overlooked the perfectly manicured gardens. The same gardens where I had played alone as a child, while Michael attended business dinners with our parents. Where's Michael now? I asked, still looking outside. In New York, he replied, trying to salvage what he can of our holdings there. He doesn't know you're here. I turned back to face him. What exactly are you proposing? Come back, he said simply. Take over as CEO of Prescott Properties. Use your expertise, your vision to reshape the company. Save what can be saved. And Michael? He'll remain on the board, but in a reduced capacity. He knows he's failed. I shook my head slowly. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about replacing Michael or taking his position. This was never about competition between us. This was about being seen, being valued. I see you now, my father said, a hint of desperation in his voice. I value what you've become. Because you need me, I pointed out, not because you love me. The word love hung in the air between us, foreign and uncomfortable. Had my father ever loved me? Had he ever even tried? I don't know if I know how to love properly, he admitted finally. But I do know that I've been proud of you these past few years, watching your success from afar, even if I never said it. I hadn't expected that. The admission that he had been following my career, that he had felt pride in my accomplishments. It stirred something in me I thought I had buried long ago, the desperate need for his approval. I need to think, I said, moving toward the door. This isn't a decision I can make right now. Of course, he nodded, looking suddenly exhausted. You're staying at the house? No, I replied firmly. I've booked a hotel downtown. Something like hurt flashed in his eyes, but he nodded again. Will you come back tomorrow? I paused with my hand on the doorknob. Yes, I said finally. I'll come back tomorrow. The hotel room offered anonymity and distance. Exactly what I needed to process the surreal encounter with my father. I stood at the window, looking out at the city where I had grown up yet never belonged. My phone buzzed with a message. It was from James, my current boyfriend of 8 months. How did it go? He had written, Are you okay? James was the first person I had ever told the full truth about my family. He had listened without judgment, offering support without pity. One of the many reasons I had fallen for him. Still processing, I texted back. We'll call later. I had just set the phone down when it rang. An unknown number. I answered cautiously. Eleanor? It's Michael. My brother's voice, so familiar yet distant, sent a jolt through me. Michael. I acknowledged. I'm guessing Mother told you I'm in town. She did, Michael confirmed. I just landed from New York. We need to talk. Father already gave me his pitch, I said coolly. Save the company, save the family legacy. I'm still thinking about it. That's not why I want to talk, he replied, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. Can we meet? Privately. Curiosity got the better of me. Café Laurent, 1 hour, I suggested, naming a small coffee shop downtown where we were unlikely to be recognised. I'll be there, he said and hung up. Exactly 58 minutes later, I was seated at a corner table when Michael walked in. Like our mother, he had aged visibly. The confident, polished air was gone, replaced by a man who looked perpetually worried. His designer clothes still screamed wealth, but his posture spoke of defeat. He spotted me immediately and approached, hesitating before taking the seat across from me. You look good, Eleanor, he said, studying me. Success suits you. What do you want, Michael? I asked, not interested in small talk. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd never seen from him before. To warn you, he said simply, don't come back. Don't take Father's offer. It's a trap. I hadn't expected that. Explain. The company isn't just struggling, he said, lowering his voice. It's imploding. Father made some extremely questionable decisions in his final years as CEO, decisions that are now coming to light. There are investigations pending, lawsuits being prepared. When he made me CEO, he was handing me a ticking time bomb. And now he wants to hand it to me, I concluded. He nodded. He's using his illness as leverage, playing on your emotions, on your desire for his approval. He doesn't want you to save the company, Eleanor. He wants a scapegoat. I leaned back, processing this information. Why are you telling me this? We've never exactly been allies. Michael looked down at his untouched coffee. Because I know what it's like to destroy yourself trying to please him. I've spent my entire life doing it. And the moment I faltered, the moment I couldn't fix his mistakes, I became a disappointment. Welcome to my world, I said dryly. I deserve that, he acknowledged. I was awful to you growing up. I bought into the competition he created between us. I enjoyed being the favourite, and I never questioned why he treated you the way he did. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from him. And now, I prompted. Now I understand that we were both pawns in his game, he said bitterly. He pitted us against each other to serve his own purposes. He convinced me that I was special, destined for greatness, only to set me up for failure. And now he's trying to do the same to you. I studied my brother's face, looking for signs of manipulation or deceit, but all I saw was exhaustion and genuine concern. There's more, he continued when I didn't respond. The family matters Mother mentioned. Father is rewriting his will. If you agree to take over the company, you will inherit everything. The remaining assets, the properties that aren't underwater, control of the family trust. And if I don't, then it goes to charity, and the Prescott name dies with him. Michael smiled wryly. His final power play. He's forcing your hand. But why now? I asked, genuinely puzzled. Why bring me back after all this time just to saddle me with a failing company and legal troubles? Michael hesitated. I think, in his own twisted way, he regrets how he treated you. This is his version of making amends, giving you what he always denied you. The problem is, it's poisoned fruit. I considered his words carefully. What would you have me do then? Walk away, he said firmly. Go back to your successful life, your clean reputation. Let Prescott Properties fall. Let Father face the consequences of his actions, even if it's only in legacy, since he won't live to see the worst of it. And what about you? What will you do? He shrugged. I've already started liquidating my personal assets. I'll walk away with enough to start over somewhere new, somewhere the Prescott name doesn't follow me. Maybe I'll finally figure out who Michael is when he's not Richard Prescott's son. There was something almost liberating in his defeated pragmatism. For the first time in our lives, we were having an honest conversation. Thank you, I said finally, for the warning. He reached across the table, hesitantly placing his hand on mine. We were never given the chance to be real siblings, Eleanor. But I hope it's not too late to at least be honest with each other. I didn't pull my hand away. Maybe it's not. The next morning, I returned to the Prescott mansion with a clearer perspective. Michael's warning had been illuminating, but I needed to verify his claims for myself. Before seeing my father again, I requested access to the company's financial records and recent legal correspondence. My mother seemed surprised, but arranged for the family lawyer to provide the documents. 3 hours in my father's home office confirmed everything Michael had told me. Prescott Properties was not just struggling, it was on the verge of collapse. Multiple properties had been acquired using questionable financing methods. Environmental regulations had been ignored in several developments. There were internal memos suggesting my father had known about toxic materials used in a major project, but had proceeded anyway to cut costs. The company wasn't just facing financial ruin, it was facing criminal charges. Armed with this knowledge, I made my way to my father's study. He seemed stronger today, sitting up in his bed with several pillows supporting him. You've been looking at the books, he observed as I entered. Not a question, a statement. Did you really think I wouldn't do my due diligence? I asked, taking the chair beside his bed. Did you think I would blindly accept your offer without understanding what I was walking into? He had the decency to look slightly abashed. I hoped you might trust me enough to— Trust you, I interrupted incredulously. When have you ever given me reason to trust you? He conceded the point with a slight nod. Then you know the full extent of the situation. I know you're trying to hand me a grenade with the pin pulled, I confirmed. What I don't understand is why. Is this your final act of rejection, setting me up to take the fall for your mistakes? My father's expression hardened. It's not like that. Then explain it to me, I demanded, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're offering me the chance to destroy my reputation, possibly face criminal charges, and watch the Prescott name become synonymous with corruption and failure. Some inheritance. He was silent for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than I had ever heard it. I wanted to give you a chance to rise from the ashes, he said, to rebuild something better than what I created, to prove once and for all that you were always the stronger one. By handing me ruins? I asked skeptically. By giving you a challenge worthy of your talents, he countered. You've already proven you can build something from nothing. I thought, Perhaps you could salvage something from this mess. Transform it the way you've transformed those urban developments of yours. It was such a fundamentally flawed understanding of what I had accomplished, of what I valued. Even now, he couldn't see me clearly. That's not how respect works, I told him quietly. You don't respect someone by setting them up for failure and calling it an opportunity. You don't make amends by offering a poisoned chalice. Then what would you have me do? He asked, a note of genuine confusion in his voice. How do I make this right? It struck me then, the tragic reality of Richard Prescott. He had lived his entire life understanding only power and control, acquisition and competition. The languages of love, respect, and genuine connection were foreign to him. Even now, facing death, he couldn't grasp how to repair what he had broken. You can't make it right, I said simply. Some things, once broken, stay broken. You had 25 years to be a father to me, and you chose not to be. You can't undo that with a grand gesture in your final days. Pain flickered across his face, physical or emotional, I couldn't tell. Then why did you come back? He asked. It was a fair question. Why had I returned, knowing there would be no satisfying resolution, no magical healing of old wounds? Closure, I said eventually. To look you in the eye as an equal, not as the girl desperate for your approval. To show both of us that I survived your rejection and built something meaningful despite it. He nodded slowly, accepting my answer. And what will you do about my offer? Decline it, I said firmly. I won't be your scapegoat or your redemption story. I've worked too hard for what I have. I expected anger, perhaps one final attempt at manipulation. Instead, he surprised me with a smile. Small, but genuine. Good, he said. That's exactly what you should do. Confusion must have shown on my face because he continued, if you had accepted knowing what you know now, you wouldn't be the woman I think you are, the woman who deserves better than what I gave her. It was the closest thing to approval, to respect that he had ever offered me. And the irony was, I no longer needed it. I have a counter-proposal, I said after a moment of consideration, one that might salvage something from this situation. He raised an eyebrow, interested. I'm listening. I won't take over Prescott Properties, I stated, but I will help create a strategy to minimise the damage. We'll sell off the viable assets before the lawsuits hit, use the proceeds to establish a fund for any victims of the company's negligence, and whatever's left can go to charitable causes in the Prescott name. Dismantling my life's work, he observed, but without the bitterness I expected. Transforming it into something worthwhile, I corrected. It's the only way to preserve anything positive from the Prescott legacy. He was silent for a long moment, considering. And Michael, he asked finally. He should be part of this process, I replied. We'll work together to close this chapter properly. My father closed his eyes, looking suddenly exhausted. You're a better person than I ever was, he said quietly. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever. But it was acknowledgement, and for now, that was enough. Over the next month, Michael and I worked together to implement our plan. We met with lawyers, financial advisors, and company executives. We had difficult conversations with board members and investors. We prepared statements for the inevitable media fallout. Throughout this process, something unexpected happened. Michael and I began to form a genuine connection. Without our father's manipulative presence between us, we discovered we actually worked well together. His financial acumen complemented my strategic thinking. His network of contacts combined with my fresh perspective created solutions neither of us would have found alone. We could have been a formidable team all along, he observed one evening as we reviewed documents in my hotel room. If he hadn't been so determined to pit us against each other. Better late than never, I replied, and I meant it. My father's condition deteriorated rapidly during this time. By the 3rd week, he was barely conscious, drifting in and out of lucidity. During one of his clear moments, I sat with him alone. "It's all arranged," I told him. "The company will be dissolved properly. The victims will be compensated. The Prescott name will be associated with the foundation rather than the scandal." He nodded weakly. "Thank you," he whispered. Then, with visible effort, "I'm sorry, Eleanor, for everything." They were the words I had waited a lifetime to hear. But now that they had come, I found they held less power than I had imagined. They couldn't erase the past or heal all wounds. They were just words offered too late. "I know," I said simply because there was nothing else to say. He died 2 days later, slipping away quietly in his sleep. The funeral was a small affair, attended only by immediate family and a few close business associates. Michael and I stood side by side as they lowered the casket, our mother between us, frail and silent in her grief. Afterward, as guests departed, my mother approached me privately. "Will you be returning to your life now?" she asked, her voice neutral. "Yes," I confirmed. "Once everything is finalised with the foundation." She nodded, seemingly unsurprised. "And us? Will we see you again?" It was the question I had been pondering since my return. What place, if any, did my family have in my life moving forward? "I don't know," I answered honestly. "I'm not sure what we are to each other anymore." My mother's composed facade cracked slightly. "We're family," she said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Are we?" I challenged gently. "Because from where I stand, family is something you build, not something you're born into. Family is people who see you, value you, support you." She flinched at my words, but didn't deny their truth. "Perhaps," she said after a moment, "we could learn to be that kind of family, if you gave us the chance." "Perhaps," I echoed, non-committal. "But it would have to be on new terms, equal terms. I won't go back to being the outsider, the afterthought." "I understand," she said, and for once I believed she might actually be trying to. 2 months later, I was back in my own city, in my own office, looking out at the skyline that represented everything I had built for myself. The Prescott Foundation was successfully established, with Michael serving as its director. My mother had moved to a smaller home, adjusting to life without the empire that had defined her existence for so long. As for me, I had returned to my life, to my company, to James, who had supported me unfailingly through the entire ordeal. But I returned changed, carrying with me both the closure I had sought and the unexpected connections I had formed. Michael called weekly now, our conversations gradually evolving from business matters to more personal topics. My mother sent tentative emails, sharing small details of her new life, asking questions about mine. I responded when I felt inclined, maintaining boundaries while leaving the door slightly ajar. I didn't know if we would ever be a true family, but we were no longer strangers either. We were finding our way towards something new, something based on choice rather than obligation. As I sat at my desk that evening, reviewing plans for my latest project, an affordable housing development that would bear the name Prescott Commons, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. I had spent so many years defining myself in opposition to my family, determined to prove my worth in their absence. Now I understood that my worth had never been dependent on their recognition. It had been within me all along, waiting to be claimed on my own terms. I had gone from being the outsider in my own family to the architect of my own destiny. And in this life I had built, there was room for them, not as the people who defined me, but as people who might, with time and effort, earn a place in the world I had created for myself. The choice was mine now, and that perhaps was the greatest victory of all.